quick update on Sean P. Diddy, the diddler. Sean, the diddler, P. Diddler. I can't believe he diddled that thing. Combs. Remember what I told you? There might be a superseding indictment if more people come forward. And my guess is that there probably are going to be more people coming forward because I don't think there's a whole lot of people mentioned in the indictment. And then their team has made some kind of motion for a hearing to investigate the leaking of the Cassie Ventura tape. The government says, and they say, the DHS has leaked this tape, and we are now incensed by it when they're trying to prejudice the jury pool. We don't believe the U.S. attorney did this, but we think it's DHS did it. The U.S. attorney said that's just baseless because we didn't get first of all, we didn't use that in the indictment, so we didn't have it until after he was indicted. So, and that could very well be true. Caution lawyers before you go accuse somebody of something, make sure you got the goods. Because, they're going to have a hearing on this, and if they can't prove what they're alleging, you lose credibility, you waste a lot of time and a lot of effort on something that's going to go nowhere. I don't like to file motions unless I know I'm going to win or have a decent shot at winning. I think a trial date in May is aggressive, but I think it would favor the defense, honestly. Here's the kind of the quandary a defendant is in. There's a thing called the Speedy Trial Act. Okay, the Speedy Trial Act is you have to have your trial in so many days. The government can take as long as they want to investigate a case, right? They can take years, and they don't bring the case until they got it locked down. The defense doesn't have that luxury.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own personal board-certified criminal defense lawyer, along with our content genius, the man behind the camera, in front of the camera, behind the microphone, behind the editing desk, behind everything, really. I mean, he's just a puppet, or I'm just a puppet for Michael Rivers. Michael, say hello to your loyal fans and subscribers.
Your loyal fans or our loyal.
We just went over 1.3 million subs, so thank you guys. And where would they get merch if they so chose? CLRBruceRivers.com. Did you hear that? That's where we have merch, all kinds of merch. Shout out to those who produced it. So before we get we're just giving you this is going to be a quick video. This is a quick update on Sean P. Diddy, the diddler. Sean, the diddler, P. Diddler. I can't believe he diddled that thing. Combs. Anyway, I make fun of it because it just sounds so funny. But before we get to the update on Sean Combs, this is brought to you by our loyal sponsor, eForms.com. eForms.com, as you know, is an effective way to avoid the high cost of a lawyer when preparing legal documents or forms that you need for either a bill of sale. Just look at they have a whole bunch of them that you can use, keep you out of court, make you win in court because documents don't lie. Just ask my grandma in my basement because grandma knows that she's protected by eForms.com when she goes to court because she's being sued constantly. I can't keep her out of the basement. That's why I had to get a power of attorney. Protect her affairs, protect her feet. Okay, so here we go. Sean, the P. Diddler, Combs, was in court today for a status hearing or review hearing. And basically they got a new judge, Subramanian, submarine. He is the new judge on the case. It's not really the new judge. When you have your initial appearance, you go before a magistrate. They determine your conditions of release or detention, and then they appeal that to the district court judge. It's not necessarily the judge assigned to his case, just who's on duty at the time, pretty much. And then, my understanding is that they're going to appeal his detention decision to the Court of Appeals. So one of the things they did is they set a trial date of May 5th. They also talked about a timeline for when discovery is going to be given over to the defense. They have to extract a lot of the things that some of the devices are older. Some of the devices were found on him when he was at the park in his hotel room. And so they are going to extract all that information. That's going to take a little while if they don't have it done already. So once they get all that stuff, then they turn it over to the defense. And there's literally terabytes of information. You know what a terabyte is? It's a lot of information. I think a trial date in May is aggressive, but I think it would favor the defense, honestly. Here's the kind of the quandary a defendant is in. There's a thing called the Speedy Trial Act. Okay, the Speedy Trial Act is you have to have your trial in so many days. So the Speedy Trial Act, dictates, when a trial is supposed to be tried. And sometimes, for good cause, they go outside that. And in this case, they're going to go outside that because there's just too much stuff to do, and there's no way they could try this case in 70 days. So they've picked a date of May 5th, but I wouldn't expect that date to hold. The defense is going to say, oh, we just don't have enough time. And here's the quandary that the defense is in. The government can take as long as they want to investigate a case, right? They can take years, and they don't bring the case until they got it locked down. The defense doesn't have that luxury. You can't say, well, Judge, I would like as much time as the state had or as the government had to investigate their case for us to do our work. You can't, it doesn't work like that. So you're on the clock, and you're under the gun in terms of how much time you have to work on the case. I would be surprised if that went on May 5th. So Diddy was in court today, and he smiled at his friends and his family that were in the audience. Nice thing to do when you're in court, I suppose. And then their team has made some kind of motion for a hearing to investigate the leaking of the Cassie Ventura tape. So if you remember, Cassie Ventura was dragged in the hallway and she was kicked and all that kind of stuff. And that was leaked. The government says, and they say, oh, the DHS has leaked this tape and we are now incensed by it when they're trying to prejudice the jury pool. We don't believe the U.S. attorney did this, but we think it's DHS did it. Well, the U.S. attorney said that's just baseless because we didn't get first of all, we didn't use that in the indictment, so we didn't have it until after he was indicted. So, and that could very well be true. I always caution lawyers to, before you go accuse somebody of something, make sure you got the goods. Because, they're going to have a hearing on this, and if they can't prove what they're alleging, you lose credibility, you waste a lot of time, and a lot of effort on something that's going to go nowhere. I don't like to file motions unless I know I'm going to win or have a decent shot of winning. You don't just fight things just to fight them. That's just stupid. There's lawyers that fight everything no matter what, tooth and nail. I'm a tough lawyer. and I know where to pick my battles. But I don't sit there and point the finger at a prosecutor if I don't have the goods on them. If I do, I'm a pit bull. But you don't need to do that all the time because you make enemies in the courthouse. It's ineffective. Next time you go up against the prosecutor, if you need something, they say I'll only deal with you in writing. I mean, I know guys that have done that, and it's just not worth it. So one of the other things that his lawyers are saying is that they've accused DHS of using excessive force during the raids of Combs' home in California and Florida. And they did that, they said to garner press attention, sensationalize the case, and portray Mr. Combs as dangerous. DHS and FBI and any felony search warrant has a protocol. When you're executing a felony search warrant where there are supposed to be guns, for example, you think they're going to have their fucking guns drawn? Of course they are. And guess what? They found guns. You can see them here. We have situations where the federal government executes things on a particular... what did they do in Trump's case? What did they do in Jeffrey Epstein's case? They execute these search warrants almost uniformly. So to say that, they use excess... and he wasn't even there. He wasn't there when they did the searches. Well, and we know also that he's been in contact with the U.S. Attorney's Office since I think January or something like that. For at least since March. and at least since the execution of the search warrants. And he could have fled by then, but he chose not to. In fact, it would look really stupid if he would have fled, and I think they were watching him pretty closely. So I don't think he would be he would have been ill-advised to flee. So, and one of the things that they didn't do in this, they didn't make a new pitch for bail in front of this judge. But even though the judge said he was open to seeing one, and they've even suggested that the Metro jail in Brooklyn, where he's being held, has been accommodating, and that they're very responsive to us. Say Agnifilo. So the trial date is supposed to start May 5th, but there could be a delay in that. I mean, remember what I told you? There might be a superseding indictment if more people come forward. And my guess is that there probably are going to be more people coming forward, because I don't think there's a whole lot of people mentioned in the indictment. I mean, it's a long worded and many page indictment, but it doesn't have that many victims in it. So my guess, and Mr. Busby, who is going around the country plastering his phone number everywhere, pulling everybody out of the dregs. He's already said we've already settled a bunch of these cases, privately. It really is a shakedown. But is it a shakedown for a reason, with real victims and real problems? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But people who are high profile that he's settling these cases with don't want their names out there. So they're willing to pay a whole bunch of money to try to keep things quiet. So, we were on Piers Morgan not that long ago, and he came out with a recantation, or not really a recantation, just an apology to Jay-Z and Beyonce, because Jaguar Wright said something on his program, and I'm not going to repeat it here, but they went after him, and they got a what do they call that?
Cease and desist.
They asked for a cease and desist, but they asked for a retraction. That's the word I was looking for. Oh. So they asked for a retraction, and he actually retracted and said, "We apologize. We didn't know she was going to say this," and they took it off of their airwaves. So when you have people like Beyonce, who's out there, and who had a relationship, Jay-Z had a relationship with P. Diddy. There's no question about that. And so when you have that, these people are either going to do one of two things: keep it quiet, pay people off, or go after people like they did with Piers Morgan. So we'll keep following this. The next phase is a motions hearing. You're going to see, they may have a hearing on whether or not there was a leak. The government said that we didn't get the tape until after it was publicized by CNN. You may have a situation where they ask for, and I'll bet you they'll have a motions hearing to suppress all of the evidence seized in the search. Because guess what? That really would hamper their case if that was granted. My guess is that it's not going to be granted because, once you get a warrant, as long as it's supported by probable cause, even if they're wrong, there's a good faith exception doctrine, which means if they acted in good faith, but if they deliberately misled anything, you can get what they call a Franks hearing. So expect a lot of fireworks in that department. And so you're going to have a motions hearing, and they'll move to suppress all this evidence. My guess is that it's not going to go anywhere, but they sort of have to in this case. That's a big deal to fight the warrants that were issued in this case. But we don't have a copy. So when you get a warrant, what happens is the government has what they call an affidavit or an application for the search warrant, and so that they write up what they believe the crimes that were committed and where the evidence is going to be found and what the nexus to the crime is. And so it's usually a long, drawn-out document. A judge looks at it. If the judge thinks that establishes probable cause, the judge signs off on the warrant. Now, if they deliberately mislead anything in that warrant, you can challenge that through what they call a Franks hearing. And so I've been doing this for 26 years. I always have a half a dozen or more federal cases going at any one time. So I litigate these things. I'm board certified. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to the federal government especially. I have a lot more success in the state courts than I do in the federal courts because they're a lot more picky in the federal courts on what cases they bring and what cases they don't bring. So we'll follow this after the motions hearing. You know, they've got over 100 devices, over 100 devices that they've accumulated through this search warrant. I don't even know that I have 100 devices. I mean, that's a lot. But you know how time goes by. You know, you get a new phone, you get a new iPad, you get a new laptop. You don't throw away your other one; it just sits in the corner, or more sinisterly, you fill it up with all kinds of baby oil, and you go down your slippery slope. Kidding, of course. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Sign up for Patreon. And we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. But before you do, go to clrbrucerivers.com to get what?
Hats, sweatshirts, prints made by me. The sweatshirt.
All the Christmas merch you can handle. Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers. See you next time.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That